New Haven, Connecticut police chief recommends firing 4 officers for mistreating a black man who was paralyzed while in custody. Richard Cox was injured in 2019 while being transported to police headquarters on gun charges, but officers braked hard to avoid an accident. Cox, whose hands were handcuffed behind his back, slid headfirst into the metal partition between the driver and passenger's compartments, breaking his neck and leaving him paralyzed from the chest down. Officers mocked Cox and did not immediately provide him with medical treatment. Police Chief Karl Jacobson said this recommendation proves they are trying to ensure the officers are held accountable for their actions.
And I just want to conclude, saying to the community that we said we would be transparent and accountable, and that's what we're doing. And to the officers that I still believe in procedural justice. Procedural justice is when you give people a voice. If we gave Randy a voice that day when he said he was injured, we wouldn't be here today. If we treated him with dignity, we might not be here today. If we were neutral in our decision-making when he said he was injured, we might not be here today. And I asked my officers to continue to take each situation under those guidelines and to treat members of this community with respect and dignity, whether they're an arrestee or a complainant or whatever the case may be.
The 5 officers, Oscar Diaz, Betsy Segui, Jocelyn Lavandier, Ronald Pressley, and Luis Rivera, have been criminally charged on allegations they cruelly mistreated and neglected Cox. Since the incident, the police department revised its policy and added seat belts to the prison vans. Jacobson's recommendations will go to the city's police commissioners, who are expected to hold hearings in late April or early May. I'm just trying to understand here, Torun, how do you have a police van and you don't have seat belts?
I always say that when you're a black in America, when you're a black man in America, your weapon is your skin tone. And there is absolutely no excuse for what happened outside of white supremacy. And seeing the pictures of these officers shows you that you don't have to be white to perpetrate white supremacy. New Haven is not a poor city. New Haven is a very wealthy township that gets a lot of money from the Ivy League school that's in this area. There is no excuse for a police van to not be outfitted with seats, to not be outfitted with proper restraints if you have a suspect that you wish to restrain. This seems like negligence, obviously. And also, firing these officers is not enough. Firing these officers is a way for the police department to cover its behind, so to speak. I feel like if you're going to have officers that are this incompetent or that is negligent or this deliberately inhumane, then you need to start going after the police pensions. You need to start going after police unions. This is a way for the police department to cut their losses and let these people get thrown to the wolves without doing a proper investigation of police procedure. Because I want to know, how long have these procedures been going on? It sounds almost like what happened in Baltimore with Freddie Gray, where there was sort of like this unspoken history and this unspoken practice of treating certain suspects a certain way. That's what it feels like, and I think that's what needs to be investigated. And this needs to be investigated on a federal level, not just from one city.
It just, again, you just have to ask yourself, Rebecca, how do you transport people in vans and you don't have seatbelts? It's kind of basic.
Well, I would have thought that's against the law to have a moving vehicle that you operate, such as a van, and not have seatbelts. Like, hasn't that been the law since the 70s to have seatbelts? So for me, this just brings back the whole idea of reform or completely getting rid of police and figuring out what is the new way. How should we actually look and view public safety? Because I know on this show previously we talked about, oh, well, if there's a mental health issue, then maybe there should be medical professionals. But we saw on your show the other day that there were medical professionals in that particular case. And we still had death that happened with someone who was in police custody. So at this point, I don't know that reform is even enough. We really have to rethink, how do we handle public safety in this country? Because right now it's not working. The second point is, we see that it's not just white police. We see that it is Latinos. We see that it is Black folks as well, who wear the badge, who are doing these things. And so we understand that, yes, white people and brown people can also be the purveyors of white supremacy. But at this point, it's the institution that's not working. We keep saying it's just a few bad apples, or I should say, folks say it's just a few bad apples, because I don't believe that. One thing that I do know is if you have 5 bad apples, it ruins the entire bushel. Those bad apples didn't just appear out of nowhere. And so at this point, police reform in of itself is not enough for this country.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.